Now, I need you to hold two things at the same time because both of them are true, and the tension between them is the entire point of this episode. The historic rise. We are living in one of the most economically mobile moments for Black and Brown communities in American history. The numbers are documented and undeniable. Since 2020, the number of African American millionaires grew over 5 times, from 260,000 to approximately 1.8 million. Black Americans now account for 8% of the total U.S. millionaire population. From 2017 and 2022, Black-owned employer businesses increased by 57%. Of the roughly 120,000 new employer businesses started in the United States during that period, over half were Black-owned. In 2022 alone, Black-owned businesses added $212 billion in revenue to the economy. Black household earnings, 100,000 or more annually, grew by 108% between 2005 and 2018. The pipeline for Black millionaires is expanding at a rate this country has never seen before. This is the most educated, most entrepreneurial, most economically mobile Black generation in American history. The gap was finally closing in a measurable and documented way. Wall Street noticed, brands noticed, the market acknowledged Black and Brown purchasing power and creative authority in ways it had never did before. That is real, that is documented, and that matters. And simultaneously, at the same moment this historical growth was happening, the floor shifted again. DEI rolled back. Affirmative action eliminated, federal workforce purge, voting rights weakened, HBCUs defunded, 600,000 Black women pushed out of corporate America in a single cycle. Despite the millionaire growth, 1 in 5 white households still had wealth over $1 million in 2021, compared to 1 in 20 Black households. Just under 1 in 4 Black households still had zero or negative wealth. The pattern holds, not despite the growth, because of it. Greenwood was not attacked when it was struggling. It was attacked when it was thriving. This is not the first time, and if the pattern is not recognized, it will not be the last.
It's what wealth can do for your life. We've talked about political power. If you got wealth, you can get political power. If you're faced with an expensive legal system, wealth will allow you to address that condition. If you have medical bills, wealth allows you to address your condition. If you want to send your child to an elite private school or university, those that have wealth can do so. We often think about wealth in terms of what the end is, but it's really the real power of wealth is what it can do for people. It gives you choice, it gives you freedom, it gives you agency. Now let's think about what wealth is in terms of numbers. So however unequal we are in terms of wealth, race becomes a bigger predictor of somebody's wealth position than class itself. The typical Black household has about 10 cents on the dollar as a typical white household, and that's including home equity. We talk about the middle class. There virtually has never been a substantial Black middle class if we're defining it in terms of wealth. And as I pointed out to you before, wealth gives you agency. I'll give a couple of more statistics and I'll sum up. We know that if you are a head of household and you're Black and you graduated from college, your family's wealth position is lower than that of a white family where the head dropped out of high school. So this feeds into the narrative of, can we simply work hard, study hard, and address inequality? The answer is no. We exaggerate the economic returns to education, particularly for marginalized groups.
The manufactured problems of the past were not just attacks. They were architectural, designed to place specific communities in a specific social economic position and keep them there. Here is what most people miss about that. The system does not just benefit from inequality, it requires it. It only functions properly when people remain in the class it assigned them. The moment enough people break out of that class, the system has to recalibrate. And recalibration is what the moving goalpost looks like from the inside. Some households never recovered from the crack epidemic. Some households never recovered from mass incarceration. Some households never recovered from predatory lending in 2008. Not because of personal failure, but because the conditions created by those manufactured problems were designed to be generational. The debt, the criminal record, the credit score, the missing parent, the underfunded school, each one a mechanism, each one keeping the cycle intact, not just for one person, but for the children and grandchildren of that person. That is why some of us are still living in the aftermath of decisions that were made before we were born. Not because our families made wrong choices, because the conditions around those choices were engineered. And the moment you disrupt that pattern, the moment you break the habits and cycles shaped by a manufactured environment, you are not just improving your life, you are breaking a mechanism the system depends on to function. This is why it feels so hard. You are not just changing yourself, you are working against a current that was engineered specifically to hold you in place. This is why the goalpost moves when certain communities start meeting the standard. It is not personal rejection. It is the structural maintenance.